Alright, hi. So I'm back with another reflection, and this week's reflection is on Andrew Pollack, the father of Meadow Pollack, who was shot and killed in Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, in Broward County. And so the shooter was 1958, otherwise known as Nicholas Cruz, but Andrew Pollack likes to refer to Nicholas Cruz as 1958, which is his criminal case number, because he mentioned, well, he didn't mention to us, but he puts it out there that he doesn't like to give the shooter humanity because what he did was so inhumane that he doesn't deserve to be called by his name. So throughout this video, if I reference the shooter, I would like to call him also by his criminal case number, just to give that respect to Andrew Pollack. So I will be going by 1958 from now on, if I need to refer to the shooter, just to clear that and put that out there. So I guess what I'm going to say, first of all, is that before we actually talk to him, Miss Menike, our teacher, she showed us some videos about him, how intense he could be, how he feels about politics, and also a video where some of Meadow's friends talked about how strong Meadow was and how they were surprised and they thought that she would be like the last person to get shot because she is so brave and so strong, and nobody ever expected something like that to ever happen to her, which is totally heartbreaking because somebody that's so strong like that, like, it's so sad the way that she had to go out. I don't think that justice was served for her. I think that she deserves more. We want to make school shootings end. We want this to not happen again. We don't want to see schools become the new place for shootings and dangerous things to happen. We want to see schools safe, and honestly, that's what Andrew Pollack was arguing the most. One point that he really made clear to us was that he knows that a lot of people in this country are against guns, and they think that if we want to solve our issues with school safety and school shootings, some people believe that the Second Amendment should not be an amendment anymore, and that we need to have stricter gun laws, or maybe not even just completely abolish the Second Amendment, but just they need to make stricter gun laws overall. So I mean, some of those probably include stricter or more thorough background checks, more vigorous background checks, and that the person who is trying to purchase the gun is mentally stable, they don't have a criminal history, any kind of danger or threat like that. And they believe that maybe if you're trying to buy a gun, you shouldn't have like a whole rifle or like an AR-15, or that if you need a gun, you should only have something that's good to protect yourself with. So those are what some people believe. But on Andrew's side of things, he was stating that he believed that gun control isn't the answer, and the answer is school safety. We need to have better security guards, better security overall. We can't just let anybody in. Most killers go to places that they know are vulnerable, like churches, like that synagogue that was shot down as well, schools. They want to go places that they know don't have security because they know they can easily get in. So his whole argument is that it's not really necessarily the gun that's the problem, it's definitely the security of the schools. So yeah, there are definitely some things in the video conference that he said that I agreed with, some things I disagreed with. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just discussing the things that we talked about. I'm discussing both sides, that some people want stricter gun laws, some people want stricter school security, and so yeah, I'm not really going to put my opinions out there, but this is the discussion that we had. I was aware that this shooter, 1958, he had a gun. Obviously he got the gun and he shot obviously many people at the school in Parkland. Something that's not very great about the background checks that are in place now, because there are background checks that are in place, but some of them are a little faulty, I think, because clearly 1958 was struggling mentally. He had mental disabilities, but he was still able to legally purchase a gun. And his mother, who I believe also had I think she may have had a criminal record, she may have had disabilities herself, but she was like all for him getting a gun. She was like, if he needs a gun, he wants a gun, he can get a gun. So like clearly the parents, or one of his parents at least, was okay with him purchasing a gun, knowing that her son probably wasn't stable. So the fact that he was able to purchase a gun and his criminal history was non-existent, his mental illness wasn't even considered, he was just legally able to purchase this gun, which I don't understand. Like, if we are going to implement background checks, like, I'm not saying whether we should have them or not, but since we do have some sort of basis for background checks, and if we have them in place, they shouldn't be as faulty as they are. They should be thorough and vigorous, and they should prevent anybody who's dangerous from purchasing a gun and going out to a school or to a synagogue or to a place that's, should be a safe haven and shooting people. That should not be allowed. So how he got this gun, I do not know. I know he purchased it, but I do not know how he passed his background check. Furthermore, I wanted to address the accountability laws that Andrew Pollack brought up. I was a little confused on that at first, but I think I figured it out. He was trying to say that 1958 was not in jail because of the mass shooting that he did. But, it kind of is a fact that he is in jail right now. So I was a little unsure about that. He was saying that the accountability laws basically state that if you are a high school student and you have done a crime, you are protected by the school, and you have multiple chances to get away with a crime, basically, and you will still be protected by the school, which I don't understand how that works. I mean, I guess those are the laws there, but my thing is, if 1958 was arrested, then I don't understand what he meant by these accountability laws. I think, from my understanding, the accountability laws were the reason why he was, even though he was a threat and he was a danger to the students at his school, I think these accountability laws are the reason why he wasn't put into a separate institution, and why even when threats went out to the school administrators that he was really dangerous to the students, they kind of brushed it off and ignored it because of these accountability laws. That's just what I'm putting together. I might not be 100% correct, but that's what I think these accountability laws really did. So I just don't want to go on too much about the political aspect of things and the guns and the reason why 1958 was able to purchase a gun, because that wasn't really the point of this conference. It was to talk about Meadow. So moving on now. Meadow, when we watched that video in class about Meadow and what her friends had to say about her, it kind of broke my heart. Like, I was tearing up a little bit, but I just didn't have any words. I didn't know what to say because it was so sad. I could not imagine having one of my friends or best friends die that way. And you have so much ahead of you. You have college, you have the future, careers, you have literally your whole life to go, and you just die young in a school like that. Like, I just think it's a truly terrible thing, and it breaks my heart that this girl didn't get a second chance at life. And I feel truly sorry for her family, especially Andrew, because before his daughter died, he was not as involved in politics as he was, and that's another reason why I think he has such a strong stance on politics, because it's kind of a coping mechanism for him. Politics for him allows him to think that a change can be made, and as long as he keeps fighting, he will get justice for his daughter. And I hope that he does, because she deserves that justice. She deserves so much more, and I feel so heartbroken about all of these events that happened, and I just wish that we could go back to that day and we could stop 1958 from getting into that school, and we could stop all of this from going down. The security officers shouldn't have been hiding behind walls or scared or afraid to do their job. I think that they should have been more involved in trying to save their students, instead of just standing there and not doing anything. And it's really upsetting, And I just hope that we learn from this and we don't let another school shooting happen again. And I know that together and as a nation, we can solve this problem, and hopefully we can put an end to school shootings for good. And if there's one thing that really stuck out to me from the conference that bothered me a lot, is the lack of training that some of the teachers had. The teacher that Meadow had that day was a poorly trained teacher. From what he said, from his words, she was not the best trained teacher in these kinds of drills. So I'm pretty sure everyone was just in the lockdown drill. The teacher was a little clueless about the whole thing, which I'm sure wasn't her fault. She didn't know what to do because she wasn't properly trained. But if she was properly trained, then she probably would have been more ready for what was happening, and she would have been more aware, and maybe those students could have been saved that day. And I'm not exactly sure, to my knowledge. I don't know if the teacher was killed or not. I hope she wasn't. But, I just wish that she was more prepared for what happened that day, so that the horrible things that happened to her students didn't happen, and Meadow may have still been alive. Andrew explained to us that when a firearm is set off and, you're shooting, that there's the backfire, there's the smoke that comes out of the gun. The smoke probably set off the fire alarm, which it did. The fire alarm was going off, and the teacher that was teaching Meadow's class thought it was a fire drill, and she let her students out into the hall, where Meadow was shot 9 times. 9 times. 9 times. That is not okay, and I don't know how I feel about that. It truly hurts me and blows my mind that a teacher could let her students into the hallway to get killed. I just don't understand how this teacher could let this happen to her. I know she probably didn't know better. She probably didn't know. They were on the 3rd floor. She probably didn't know what was happening in the school, and it was just, when you hear the fire alarm go off, you let the students go outside. So I'm not blaming her 100%. It wasn't 100% her fault. But I just wish that she had better training, and maybe Meadow would still be alive today. So lastly, we wanted to get advice from him. What can we do for our schools? What is something that we can do to help prevent gun violence? And what can we do to keep our schools safe? And obviously he said that, when we're 18, we can be on our Board of Education. It's not always in the president's hand to take care of our schools. It's kind of a local thing, and that we need to get involved with our Board of Education. We need to be the ones that are in charge. We need to make changes ourselves. We need to stand up for what's right, and we need to get involved. And I think that's really wise of him to say, because if we want to see change in the world, we can't just sit around and wait for it to happen. We have to be the ones that make that change and set it in place. We have to be the ones that cause this transformation to happen. So yeah, that's something I agree with. I think that if we want to see more school safety, we have to be the ones that are willing to make it happen, and we have to be, maybe we can start going to board of ed meetings. We can start getting involved, talk to the teachers about school safety. We can just do whatever we can do that we think will make the school a better place and will make it a safer place and less frightening for students to go to every day. It's in our hands as well to make things right, and that as a whole student body, we can make a change. And really the students are what make up the school. So we need to be heard, and we together can make a difference. And we will make that difference for Meadow, because she deserves it. So that's really all that I have to say. I'm grateful that we had this conference. I'm grateful that we learned so much about Meadow, so much about the shooting, so much about the shooter as well. And I hope that we can prevent this and hopefully make the number of shootings dwindle down, and hopefully get over this epidemic. And someday maybe shootings just won't be a thing anymore, and something we won't have to worry about. And that's ultimately the end goal. So I just hope that we can make this happen one day, and that we students especially can change the world.